I'm now joined by Cathy Towers. Good morning, Cathy.
Good morning, Anna.
How are you?
I'm very bright and breezy.
You're always bright and breezy. Right. So Cathy,
I try hard.
I don't know, it seems like it just comes naturally to you.
Well, it does now, but actually it has taken sort of a bit of conscious effort to engage the world in a positive way.
Practice. Okay, so Cathy, we're going to be talking a bit about beating the winter blues this morning, and also sort of further to that, those of us that get a little bit more than winter blues, those of us that can get down on quite a regular basis. Okay, so what happens in the winter? Everyone seems to get down and that they're more miserable. What's kind of going on there?
Yeah, and in fact tomorrow is the Monday that they call Blue Monday, I think it is, because so many people, that's the highest amount of people who are most likely to risk taking their lives or feel really, really down. And it's a winter thing, isn't it? And part of it is because we're hibernating, if you like, on a sort of primitive level, and there's less sun about, we're getting less stimulus from outside, and also I think the post-Christmas has a lot to do with it. All that sort of intense work up to this big festival, and then back to work, and it's still miserable outside.
Quite an anticlimax then. Okay, so those people out there that maybe are feeling a bit blue at the moment, do you have kind of any advice for them, or what simple little things can people do who are feeling a bit blue this time of year?
The most simple things actually is to do something physical, because that sort of stimulates the hormones which lift your spirits, and when you're just feeling a bit down, then it is usually possible to talk yourself into going out for a walk, or going and playing that game of tennis when you think it's too cold to put your shorts on, or something like that. And of course, you know what I do on a regular basis, and that's dance Argentine tango.
So tell us more about this. This is obviously your vice by the sounds of it. Tell us about the dance you do, Cathy. Come on.
The dancey bit. Well, there's been a lot of research, and it's not just Argentine tango, but Argentine tango is significantly different. That dance improves your mood, and it can improve your mood if you're just at home on your own dancing to the radio. It improves it more if you dance with somebody.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, this is what the research has shown, that actually doing a partner dance and having physical contact with somebody else improves your mood even more.
So it's kind of like, because obviously hugging's really good. It's like a hug and a dance at the same time. A bit like that?
I think there is something about it, because we are social animals and we're meant to interact. And when you're dancing, you have a permission to make physical contact in a way that you wouldn't if you're just mixing with people in the workplace, for example, or talking with people in a pub. And I think that permission to have the physical contact just it stimulates those warm, loving hormones, and it's a little boost, isn't it?
So how long have you been dancing? When did you first discover dancing?
Ooh, I think it's about 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. I went, well, I've always danced by myself, or around the handbag, that sort of thing. But I went modern jive in Exeter, where they are immensely friendly. Now, that was at a point when I was quite down, actually, because, relationships and things like that. And I thought, right, I'm not going to let myself go down this slippery slope. And somebody told me about modern jive, and I went, even though I knew nobody, and I was terrified. And I was so glad I did, because I went to the reception. The check-in guys were absolutely perfect and friendly, and, oh, we haven't seen you here before. No, I've never been before. Took me around, introduced me, showed me around, and everybody was so friendly. It was like, oh, that was easy.
So it's like you say, you made that step and you forced yourself to go, and you thought, like, I'm not going to go down the slippery slope. And
yes.
you did it, and it all turned out fine. And 6 years later, you're still dancing.
Yes. Addicted.
Addicted to dance. Well, I think
and
worse things to be addicted to.
And sometimes I find if I'm feeling a bit down and, oh no, I don't want to go out dancing, and I think, actually, what I need is to dance. And so I go out and I look around at who I want to dance with, and I'm a bit more picky if I'm down, and I sort of hold myself back, and I just go and dance with my favourites, and then I feel good.
And that's an interesting subject as well, isn't it? I guess when you're feeling down, you need to choose your company very, very carefully.
Yes. So that you feel safe, that you feel okay. When we're feeling confident, then it's easier to take risks with someone you don't know, or someone who's a bit clumsy or something like that, or whatever. But yes, take care of myself.
Yes.
Pick and choose, be fussy.
So the first tip, basically, when you're feeling a bit blue, sounds like it's physical exercise. So maybe some dance, or like you said, some tennis or walking, something along those lines. And sorry,
as I was going to say, getting outside as well. So if you can do your exercise outside, so you're getting the rays of the sun on you, that lifts your mood. We'll talk later about
bit of vitamin
sad.
D, yeah. Okay. And then secondly, we just mentioned about choose who you spend your time with. So choose to be around the people that make you feel uplifted and make you feel good when you come away from them. Okay, have you got a third tip for beating the winter blues?
Might sound a little bit trite, but to think positive, and because that's one of the things that has made people more prone is when they attend to pessimism, then you're much more prone to any sort of depression. And if you can interrupt that thought, go, right, stop, I'm going down that track, take a deep breath and translate it. How can I think positive about this instead?
So I guess that's a case of sort of analysing your own thoughts and actually listening in closely to what's going on with your thoughts.
Yeah, if you notice, I feel like I'm moaning. Most people say I feel like I'm boring myself, so nobody else will want to listen to me. That's a good sign you're on a track down.
Yeah, I think for me, I find I can get quite critical. As soon as I know I'm sinking, I can feel critical of everything. And you're like, oh, here it comes. Quick, let's get on top of this now before it sinks lower. Okay, well, I think those 3 tips are good ones for beating the winter blues. And I think I want to talk a little bit more about those people that maybe have the blues a little bit more than just in the winter time. And I know this can be a bit of a scary word for some, but I'm going to say it, and that's depression. Tell me a bit about depression and your thoughts on that, Cathy.
Well, it's sort of divided up into mild, moderate and severe depression. And it doesn't matter. I guess at the mild level, people can be talked out of it and you've got some control over it, some control. But when it gets deeper, then you don't. And actually, you do need extra help. And what I find is that actually usually a combination helps. And people may sort of go to the doctor and get some medication, and that helps. I was surprised at this figure, about a third of people. And if it's combined with something like counselling or cognitive behavioural therapy, then that increases, more than doubles that improvement. And if you also combine it with other things about taking care of yourself, then you're on your road to recovery. But it takes a long time.
Cathy, what's some of the signs that people should be looking out for? So someone, is suffering with depression, what kind of things are they going to be experiencing?
Well, it's interesting because quite often people don't realise they're depressed until they get into that severe state where they can't function on a daily life. It's things like everything gets harder. To get out of bed gets harder. To go to work gets harder. To do the washing up feels harder. And you lose the spark and the joy out of life, and things are a chore. there can also be things like your sleep pattern changes, and also what you eat changes. We lose that sort of sensitivity, if you like, around what our physical body needs. So those are sort of the main things.
So almost like a numbness inside.
Yeah, yeah. We all know a bit of that, don't we?
Yeah. I think you just you start to lose your passion, don't you? And I think particularly if you are a very passionate person, it can come as a bit of a shock when suddenly you don't start enjoying the things that you're doing. Okay, so what would be your advice for someone out there that maybe is experiencing these symptoms? What could they do? I mean, obviously, every human being is different, and we have different needs. What sort of things could people look to do, particularly if they're scared, particularly if they're actually nervous? Because, I mean, I've suffered with a mild depression myself, and you don't want to tell anyone because you're like, oh my God, like it's really embarrassing. Oh my God, have I got depression? And a lot of that goes on. So what would you suggest?
Well, it is important to get help, and I guess it's also important to think carefully, who am I going to share this with? Who am I going to get help from? So rather than go into the, oh my God, what are people going to think of me? Think that there must be someone in my life who would be the best bet, even if they're not a perfect bet. And it may be a friend, it may be a work colleague, it may be a GP, but somewhere to start to talk to someone. And particularly if you go to your GP, then you'll probably get medication or advice to sort of see some sort of counselling, talking therapies. And the thing about talking therapies is that you get the chance to talk things through with somebody who does not have a vested interest in how you behave. So if you're, and also they're not in your life, so they're not judging it, and they'll listen and help you tease things apart and reflect on it and make sense, because we tend to sort of go down that pessimism, negative thinking, critical thoughts, and somebody helping you talk it through and reflect on it gives you a bit of feedback, gives you a bit of perspective, and you begin to sort of pull back and see that, okay, I got a bit carried away there, or yes, this is serious, I need help. Those sort of things.
Meditation is another big one. There's been I mean, I love meditation. I'm kind of addicted to it. Twice a day, love it. And I've been reading up a lot on that's meant to be really good for depression. What's your thoughts on meditation for it? It
is. It's very good for depression because it's changing your mind chemistry. And it's there's a big difference, though, between ruminating and meditating, and just sort of sitting there quietly, but with the thoughts buzzing around your head and going over and over things is not meditating. That's ruminating, and we sort of get stuck on a track. Meditation, well, we all hope to clear our minds and be free from thought. You only get glimpses of that in meditation. You'll know that it's hard work. But there's something about paying attention to how the mind is going and watching it do its business, but not getting caught up in it. That you're able to sort of step back and observe what happens in your mind and in your body, in your physical body as well. Because that's another factor in depression. We get strange aches and pains and things because you move less, you become stiller, you don't express yourself in the world so much. And meditation, you're becoming stiller, but you're doing it with conscious awareness and trying to relax the body.
I like what you say about sort of not judging what's going on. So like you say, you have an ache or a pain or a thought. And I think with depression, you can be inclined to beat yourself up and judge yourself. I think that's what I've had in my experience. And actually, if you can learn to let that be, I guess that's going to help you then, in the long run.
Yes, it's like noticing what goes on in my mind is not who I am.
I like that, yeah.
That we are more than our thoughts, we're more than our feelings, and we're more than what goes on in our body.
I heard this thing, thoughts are not facts. I heard that and that stuck.
That's true. Well, maybe some are.
Yeah. Not all thoughts are facts.
Because our thoughts change and our opinions on something changes. One day, I want to go skiing. I've never been skiing. And another day, I don't want to do it at all.
Yeah.
So those things change from day to day and even from moment to moment.
Mm-hmm. Cathy, I want to talk a little bit now about maybe people who are around someone suffering with depression. So maybe you have a partner who has depression, or you have a friend that has depression, and I think that can be quite scary. Maybe they don't know what to do. What's your take on that subject? What kind of advice would you have for them?
First off, don't take it personally. It's very easy. One of the things we want to do when somebody's down is we want to make them feel better. Cheer them up. Come on, let's go out. And if they're saying no, or they're not responding to our cheering up, then we can think, oh, I've failed. And you begin to feel down yourself, or feel irritated with them because they're not doing what you suggest. Don't take it personally. It's not about you. It's about them. Also, to be there, just listen, just help out, and even if that person's not wanting to talk or wanting to engage in any way, simple gestures, a little gift, make them their favourite meal if they're that close, send a little card. Just a little gesture. Just think, what is it that I could do just to let that person know I'm thinking of them, or I care. And they might not be able to take it in at that moment, but it will hit home at some level. And, well, we've talked about judging. Don't judge it. And don't sort of try and make it, minimise it. So say, oh, no, it's not that bad if you look at such and such. When you start getting into comparisons, what actually happens is that person then has to try and explain to you why it is that bad, and that triggers them into that polarity, rather than allowing them to just be there and so they can ease their way forward. Does that make sense?
No, totally. No, I can really relate to that. I think when you are feeling down, to have to explain why you're feeling down, it's just like you feel like that because you feel like it.
Yeah, you start having to justify it.
And I think it can make it feel worse. Yeah. Cathy, have you got any examples, maybe people you've worked with or friends or any? Can you give me any examples of anyone who's been suffering with depression?
Well, I was speaking to an old friend last night, and we were talking about depression, and she split up in a very, very difficult circumstance from a long-term relationship a couple of 3 or 4 years ago, and I hadn't realised actually that she was as bad as she was. She was actually considering suicide, and she lives a long way from me, and I just used to ring her up on a regular basis and chat with her, and I guess challenge her judgments as well, and giving her permission not to have to deal with people who were frustrating her and things like that. And she didn't tell me until sort of about a year or so afterwards that she had been on the verge of committing suicide, and it was our talks that had made the difference for her. And it was a funny thing because I felt almost guilty at that, because I thought that meant so much more to her than it did to me. It was just a little thing that I was ringing her up once or twice a week and checking she was okay. And it had been so massive to her. but it had made the difference between her being alive today or not.
Wow.
And that's a scary responsibility, isn't it?
But it just proves how the small things make the big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
Wow. And how is she now?
Great. She's loving life.
Brilliant.
Loving life.
That's good to hear. So it proves that you can hit an all-time low and slowly build it up, an awareness of your thoughts and what's going on, doing the things that are right for you, and you can get on top of it.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, what she thought was so difficult back then, and that sort of breaking up with the relationship, being on her own, felt like she was lonely, desperate, wanting someone, all her sort of surrounding support system, if you like, in terms of family, fell apart. And now it's just not important. She was holding on to something that actually wasn't serving her anyway, and now she's out there doing what she wants and having a good time. She's just been on a fantastic walking holiday, meeting a whole load of new people, and
it's brilliant. What a great story to end the interview on.
Yeah.
Cathy, thank you so much for coming in today. I just want to do a quick recap on what we talked about. So first of all, we talked about beating the winter blues. And if I can remember correctly, the 3 tips were: number 1, physical exercise. Number 2, get yourself around good people.
Yes.
That uplift you. And number 3 was positive thinking.
Yes, trying to sort of interrupt the negative thoughts and bring in some positive ones.
Okay. And on the depression side of it, what we're talking about, so if there's anyone out there who is feeling a bit depressed, what was the steps that they should take now? So was it tell someone that they feel they can tell?
Yes. Yeah. Think about who you tell before you tell them. So you choose somebody who you can feel will be a good bet, a safe bet, rather than telling everybody, because you want people who are going to be supportive and on your side. What else did we say? I can't remember.
And to look at some kind of help, so whether that's talking therapy or meditation or telling your doctor, something along those lines. A combination of things works better than any one individual thing. So I guess it's trial and error as well, finding out what works for you. Yeah. Okay, and lastly, just to recap on people who might be living with someone with depression or has a friend, what top tips did you have for them?
Don't take it personally. Don't judge. Just listen. Be patient, and just think of little ways that you can just let them know that you're there. A little gift or a little favour, a little treat. It can be hard for them to receive it, but it just brings them back in connection with you.
Brilliant. Cathy, where can people find you?
Me? Ooh.
Online. So you're the Exeter Mind and Body Clinic, isn't it?
Yes. I work with Exeter Mind and Body Clinic. I'm a counsellor and psychotherapist there, and we've got a team of counsellors and psychotherapists, actually, so there's a choice. That's another thing. When you get your help, that choosing, it also works for any talking therapist that you might employ to sort of look and choose the one that feels most appropriate to you.
And I guess
feel comfortable with.
Know what feels right, don't you?
Yeah.
You'll just know.
Yeah.
Cathy, thank you very much for joining me. It's been really interesting, really eye-opening.
Okay.
So best of luck. And that's Exeter Mind and Body Clinic. That's Exeter Mind and Body Clinic. Type that into Facebook and click like on Cathy's page.